Hi, and welcome to yet another Excel video. This one is going to have a look at how we can actually crack a password or remove a password which is on an Excel sheet. Now, there's two different ways we can do this. One of them obviously is by just simply taking the password off. But the other way that I find far more useful is actually removing the password and then putting it back on again in its same form after we've made some changes. It is a bit devious, and obviously you'll have to sort of set your own morals as to why you're doing this in the first place. I have my reasons, I'm sure you do as well. So let's have a look at this Excel file, and this is the same one we looked at earlier, where we showed how we could actually select this individual cell which is locked. Now, what's happened here is the sheet has had protection put on it, and if I try to unprotect the sheet, unless I actually know the password, I can't unlock it, except that I can. So I'm going to close this file down, not going to save the changes, and you'll see I have here the sheet that I was working on. Now, all I'm going to do here, and you'll see a lot of other videos showing you that you need special hex editors and things like that to get into the actual code behind the sheet. All I'm going to show you is a really simple way of doing this. Now, before we do that, you need to understand what is actually in an Excel file that you save. Now, if I right-click on this, and I'm just simply going to go into it with 7-zip is the one that I use, but you can use any archiving editor that you like. If I just say extract these all into another folder, and then let's have a look at what's in that folder itself. And here, which is a real surprise to most people, is that most of the files that you save on your computer are actually archives or collections of files. They're not a single file, they're a collection of lots of different file types. And you'll notice that in here, the one that we're interested in is the Excel ones. And you'll notice down here that we have a setting for the whole of the workbook, and we also have individual sheet settings. Now, mine at the moment I've got mine set so that when my XML files, they'll open up in Notepad. So when I double click on there, I can see this in Notepad. And what I'm looking for is this section down here in between the tags. So you'll notice that these greater than, less than signs, those are what we call tags in code. And so I'm going to grab that bit between that first tag there where it says sheet protection, all the way to where I have the closing tag, and you'll notice it's just there, and I'm simply going to cut that out. So Control X and it's gone. Control S to save it. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to open up Notepad again, paste that in, and just do a save as, and I'm going to put it on the desktop, and I'm just going to call it code. So you'll notice that we've got that code that we cut out of the sheet. We've got it saved. That's useful for actually putting it back on the sheet again. Now what we can do is go back up to the master folder. Now it is important that you go right back up to this root folder here, and an easier way of doing that is simply to come back into here. Yeah. What you mustn't do is do the next step from in here. So best way of doing it reliably, go back onto your desktop, double click there to open it up again, and all we're going to do, select them, right click, send to compressed folder. And now here's the only bit that's slightly tricky. You just have to rename the extension. So I'm not renaming the file itself, I'm just changing the extension on the end, XLSX. That will say, it will tell the computer when it opens it up that this particular collection or archive is to be opened in Excel. Do I want to change it? Yes, of course I do. That's what I've just said to do. Now when I open up that file, and it doesn't actually matter what it's called there, all of these are now unlocked. There is no protection on the sheet anymore. The protection has been taken off. So I can now go in and I can say, do you know what, I want that one there, rather than being the sum of those, I want it to be the sum of them. And now what I actually want to do is I want to save this and save the protection again. So I'm just going to say save to save this file. And you'll notice that this is the .props one, which is actually not the original. The original was called password protect. This is this one that's now had the changes. So I'm just going to move that one out of there. So that .props has gone onto the desktop, and I'm now going to delete that one there. This is my original password protected sheets. This is the one that's had the changes made to it. I'm going to not delete this one just yet, because I'm going to use this one and rename it with that's name. But what I'm going to do here is the same process as we did before. So I right click on it, go to 7-zip and extract to, and that will create a folder which has all of those elements in it. I go into the folder, I go into Excel, I go into the specific sheet, and you'll notice here that nowhere does it have that protection bit. But if I open up that file I had previously, I can copy, and then I can come down here, and just before it's the page margins, I can paste that back in. Control S to save, close it down, close that down, go back into that folder again, select them, right click, in fact I'll right click on that one there, send to compressed, and it's gone in as rels zip. I don't want it to be a zip. ExcelSX, enter, enter. Yes, I do want to change it, and I'm going to put that on the desktop. And now what I'm going to do is clean up the stuff that I don't need anymore. So I don't need that one, .props. I don't need that one, and I'm going to look here, password protected sheets. That was the original, so I'm going to rename this one. Password protected sheets change. Now obviously if you were doing this because you wanted to make a change to a sheet or to a workbook and then resave it as if you hadn't done, you'd save it with the same name. So now if I go into this original one, we'll have a look here and see that we can't select those there. We can select these. If I was able to select them, I would be able to see that that one with the sum of these. If I open a different sheet here, so I'm going to go back to my desktop, I'm going to open this password protected changed. Looks very similar, but that cell there, they're still password protected, but that cell there is the one that is now the sum of the ones above, rather than the sum of the ones to the left. So I've actually made a structural change there. Now the real interesting thing about this is if I go back up to Format, Unprotect Sheet, I put back on exactly the same password as the user had initially put on that sheet. I didn't know the password, I didn't know the password at any stage, but I've gone in, edited the structure of the sheet, and then put the same password back on, and I've never even known the password, but I've been able to make changes to the workbook as I liked. Okay, I hope that's been useful to you, and thank you for listening.